Did you know we have a thriving global community of like-minded ancestral home cooks and homesteaders? Every day on our Discord forum, we are discussing what we're cooking, what we're growing, what we're thinking about, what our latest struggles are, and supporting each other to fully embrace this beautiful lifestyle. As a patron member, you can also choose to access an extra private podcast feed, which includes monthly intimate chats where Andrea and I talk in depth about what's happening in our lives and kitchens. There are over 90 recordings waiting for you there right now. In addition, we've got a massive collection of inspiring and helpful downloads for you, including many recipes and videos. And once a month, you'll get to visit with myself, Andrea, and the community as we come together live and in person. Visit ancestralkitchenpodcast.com for all the details on how to join us. Come be part of our world and change yours.
In this wonderful episode, I got to sit down with Christine Muldoon, who is a friend, the creator of nourishing. She is a nutritional therapy practitioner. She is a mother and wife, and she's also a follower of the Weston A Price Principles of Food. She is also the co-host of the podcast Modern Ancestral Mamas with her amazing co-host, Corey Dunn. I wanted to tap into Christine's incredible knowledge base and wisdom for postpartum care and learn about really nourishing mom in the postpartum window of time. I wanted to highlight why this is so important. Why is the rest so important? And what are some of the foods we should be focusing on? And what are some of the types of foods we should be eating? Christine absolutely delivered in this episode. I enjoyed hearing all her wisdom and great advice, as well as some humorous stories along the way. And I know you will enjoy it too. Welcome to the Ancestral Kitchen Podcast.
I'm Alison, a European town dweller living in England.
And I'm Andrea, living on a family farm in Northwest Washington State, USA.
Pull up a chair at the table and join us as we talk about eating, cooking, and living with ancestral food wisdom in a modern world kitchen.
Well, hello, everyone. I have somebody back on the podcast today. You're a repeat offender now, Christine. So we have Christine Muldoon here with us. And you guys heard her in the spring talking about nourishing babies and children. And that is really your jam, Christine. And today I'm super excited to have you here with me to talk about something very close to your heart, which is postpartum care and nourishment in the postpartum period, which is exactly the news I need to have set up right now. So we've only been talking on here for an hour before we started recording, so that's fine. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm so glad to be back here with you guys again. I guess just Andrea this time. But
yeah, just me. No Allison here today with us.
I know.
So yeah, she's having a good time though. So it's so good to have you here, Christine. And oh my gosh, like you said, we should be recording a pre-show because we sometimes record an after show for our patrons. But you and me talked for so long before. So many interesting things.
I know.
But now we get to talk about food, which is always a good subject. So to kick us off with food, why don't you tell me what you ate last before we started recording?
Okay. So it is the morning here in Texas. So I had breakfast. And my kids asked me for breakfast tacos or breakfast burritos. Ooh. And so I just had eggs and sausage with chives and rolled it up into a tortilla and had that. And I am currently drinking a cold cup of tea that one of my kids left behind.
Oh, nice.
I know. They complained about it being a little too strong flavored. It was, if I remember correctly, it's like an immune boosting, I don't remember what all the the label said. It's like a loose leaf tea. And they really wanted tea, and I was out of chamomile and I was out of a few others. So I was like, I'll just drink this one. But it has a few strong herbs in it.
Yeah. But you're like, we are not throwing this away.
No, definitely not. Yeah. So
I will chug this.
Yeah.
Well, strong tea makes good iced tea if it ever comes to that. But if it's just the dominating herbs, there's no getting around that.
I think it's the orange peel that they don't like in it. It has orange peel in it.
Yum.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that's a little bitter maybe, or...
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. But...
Well, that's a good addition. Burritos or tacos for breakfast is like down to Texas.
I know.
Did you put salsa on it?
What?
Did you put salsa on it?
Oh, so I put sriracha on it. I love sriracha. My son puts Tabasco on it. Absurd amounts of Tabasco. Like, I would never want to eat that. It's so gross. He puts Tabasco on everything. Last year, we actually went to the Tabasco factory. It's in
nice.
Yeah, it's in Avery Island, Louisiana. Okay.
Wow.
I cannot recommend it enough. I am 100% a Tabasco fan. Not only, yes. So this company has been owned by the same family since its inception. Its ingredients are incredibly clean. It's literally 3 ingredients. It's the peppers, which are a special variety blend of peppers that they source from specific farms, vinegar, and salt. I think that's it. And it ferments for months in these massive wooden barrels.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what that's what Tabasco is. That's all it is. It's super easy. I mean, I couldn't make it, but I was really impressed with like the company ethics and just all of the thought that they put into it. And they don't even have a lot of flavors. I think they only have 5 flavors total. And like, they're not going to stray from that because they're like, we don't want a lot of ingredients in our food.
Tabasco.
Yeah. So shout out to Tabasco for...
This episode sponsored by Tabasco.
Right.
How old is the company? How long have
Oh my gosh. I want to say close to 100 years old. It was back, if I remember correctly, early 1900s. I should go back and look at my history, but...
Just ask your kids.
Yeah.
Listen, Mom.
Yeah.
Were you not paying attention?
I know.
Well, we can put that under the warming foods category.
Definitely. For postpartum foods.
Yeah. So postpartum care, postpartum
Wait,
food,
what did you eat for breakfast?
You want to know you know what? Yeah, usually when we have a guest, we don't say because then there's like 7 people trying to say. But I'll tell you, my mom made us a loaf of bread. So I had bread and toast, like toasted bread with butter on it. And then I heated up some raw milk into like a steamer with mushrooms and cocoa and maple sugar. Super good. Don't mind starting out like that. It's not overwhelmingly sweet, but milk itself was pretty sweet. So, but yeah, it was really delicious and felt like cozy and warm. It's super windy. It's been snowing every day and then melting every day. So it's like this sort of end of February, sloggy, muddy, trippy sort of time. Yeah. Super great for all the clothes coming in the door all the time. Mud everywhere. But I just needed something to start out. So I'll probably, when we're done, go upstairs and make 2 fried eggs, have another cup of milk or something. Yeah.
Later, you'll have to share with me what mushroom blend.
Oh yeah, totally. I get it on Azure.
Yes, please tell me that.
Yeah, they have a bunch. I like them all. The Ohm brand blends on there. They have, this one is like cocoa flavored, and then there's also one that's espresso or something that has coffee, and Gary drinks that one in the morning. And then you can get bags of just the mushrooms, and then you can kind of do whatever you want with those. Throw them in a smoothie or whatever have you. Are they dried mushrooms? Yeah, they're powdered. They're all powdered up. So ready to
I'm trying to think where I heard this. I heard recently that mushrooms, the type of food that they are, or I don't know if that's the right term, but basically they have compounds in them that they can tell when something is about to happen. And I'm butchering this completely. But so when you eat them, they are, the word that's coming to mind is prophetic, but that is not the right term. But basically they have chemical compounds within them.
Needs.
Yeah, that they can tell whatever it is that your body needs and at the time, and they will.
So is that word adaptogenic? Is that the word you're looking for?
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Maybe that's the word, because I remember learning that about oils too. There's some oils that are adaptogenic, like not all of them are, but some are. And then, the mushrooms are too. So anticipatory.
Anticipatory, that's the word. That is the word. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Prophetic.
That sounded way more mystical, though. Maybe we should just go that way. Have a very interesting episode today.
I know, right? Oh, man.
But those, they're really good. Our kids like them. We make them for the kids and too, so the kids get a little bit, and they're pretty good. They're when you look on the Azure site, you'll see they have all different kinds of. You can probably get it from the company too. I don't know.
Okay.
But
cool.
I just get it from Azure because I don't have to do another order some other website. Yeah. Well, it'll probably be a good postpartum food too.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
If you've been around ancestral food for very long or listened to the podcast for just a few episodes, you know liver is a superfood, and Allison and I both love it. You're looking at a food packed with vitamins A, K, a broad spectrum of B vitamins, CoQ10, bioavailable iron, plus many essential minerals. Liver is your first stop when seeking to gain energy and restore your health. Not only is it a delicacy and staple of traditional diets, it's the first thing most animal predators go for when they're hunting. Are you looking for a good way to work liver into your daily life, but getting it on the table just isn't happening yet, or as much as you'd like? Or maybe, like I went through earlier this year, you're pregnant and you're pretty sick and not much food is staying down. This is where liver capsules come in. Allison and I are both supplementing our ancestral diets with liver capsules from One Earth Health. We get all the incredible benefits of liver, even when we're on the road, or preparing non-liver meals for our family, or we just can't get a hold of a liver, and the sourcing and preparation has all been handled for us. One Earth Health produces nutritious organ capsules from 100% grass-fed, New Zealand-raised cattle. Support the pod by purchasing through our link. You'll get 15% off your first order and 5% off subsequent orders. Go to ancestralkitchenpodcast.com/liver or check the show notes.
So let's see. Where shall we begin? I guess let's begin with, since I want to talk about building an ancestral postpartum care plan or a plan for your healing. Why is this? And to some people listening, it'll seem obvious, and to other people listening, we need to hear this message. But why is healing postpartum so important? In that period of time after you've had a baby and after you have possibly lost a pregnancy, this would still apply to you. You still are postpartum. And so I just want to hear your thoughts on that. Like, why? Why is this important?
I like that we're starting with the why.
Yeah.
I think that I did touch on this a little bit in my previous episode with you guys, but I'm going to reiterate it again. There is this common misconception that pregnancy is the hardest time on a woman's body. And yes, while pregnancy is very hard and it does deplete the woman's body of nutrients, it's actually the postpartum time that is the most difficult on a woman's body in their entire life.
Oh.
It is postpartum.
Wow.
And this is twofold. This is because you spent 9 months growing an entire human, and then you gave birth to that human. And in that birth process, there was a transfer of nutrients that happened via the umbilical cord. So pretty much all of your mineral stores, your nutrient stores, all of that was given to the baby. So that is incredibly, And that's actually, and that's what sustains the baby for the first 6 months of their life.
Wow.
Essentially. Amazing. All of those mineral transfers and the nutrient transfers. And that's one reason why it's so taxing on postpartum is such a taxing time on a woman's body. And the other is because you're feeding a human. And sometimes I think that it's hard to conceptualize the magnitude of what it's like to be the sole provider for an entire human and grow a human. But this is huge. Again, all of our nutrients are going to this baby. They're going to the production of the breast milk to be able to sustain the life of this child. And that is very, very difficult for the body. So your body is recovering from pregnancy. It's healing from labor. For those that are unaware, labor, as natural as it is, leaves a huge wound internally. So where the placenta was before, there's a massive wound that needs to heal. This is one of the reasons why we bleed. And this is also one of the reasons why sometimes a woman will, let's say, they've already had labor. You bleed for a few weeks afterwards. All of this is normal and common. And then if a woman were to exert herself too much, let's say she jumps into activities, or she's really busy, or she's going back to work, or anything like that, and it puts strain on her body, then oftentimes the wound can reopen and then she'll be bleeding again. So this is one of the reasons why, so I was saying, the pregnancy, the healing from postpartum, and then the feeding of the baby. These are the three reasons why postpartum is such a difficult time on a woman's body, and why we want to rest, and why we want to really take it easy and just slow down. And so are you familiar with the idea of the fourth trimester for the baby?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the only book by the name, but back when the book The Fourth Trimester came out, I read that book. I might have reviewed it, actually.
Yes.
I can't remember. And it became just a paradigm that I lived with ever since. And I forget that other people don't know about it. And I'm like, the baby's still basically like a part of you. And people are wondering, why can't the baby stay in its room by itself and stuff, at 2 weeks old? And but I'm like, oh
my gosh, we could go into this for a long conversation too. But
the fourth trimester.
So there, I don't know, which, are you referring to the one by Kimberly Ann Johnson?
I don't know. I'll look while you're talking. I would only recognize it by the cover. I do not remember the author's name.
So, because there is a book on postpartum. It's called The Fourth Trimester, A Postpartum Guide to Healing Your Body, Balancing Your Emotions, and Restoring Your Vitality. And it's by Kimberly Ann Johnson. Highly recommend that book. And one of the things she talks about in it is this idea of, as parents, many of us are aware of the fourth trimester for babies, but we don't associate the fourth trimester for moms as well. So, women are generally pregnant for the 3 trimesters, and then we have this fourth trimester, which is this cocooning time, exactly like you said, where the baby is still essentially attached to the mom, but it's just externally out of the body. But the mom is in a fourth trimester stage where she is, if this is her first baby, she's adapting to what becoming of a mom is. She is basically being birthed into like new motherhood. If this is, a second or a third or a fourth or whatever, subsequent baby, it's still the same thing. You are still adjusting to life with a new child. And whatever that looks like for your family unit. And it is still necessary to slow down, to basically rest and snuggle that baby as often as possible. So we just had Mary Reddick on our show a few weeks ago. Gosh, oh my gosh, talk about like one of the most incredible episodes ever. But basically, she's an anthropologist, and she is your modern day Weston A Price. She has lived with the last remaining traditional cultures in the world. Wow. And yes, it was very good. Highly recommend listening to it. But she talked a lot about how in these cultures and these communities, women are never alone. They're never alone. And they are surrounded by the aunts, the sisters, the mothers, the grandmothers.
The opposite of now. Like literally the opposite of now. When you said women are never alone, I was thinking of like the number one thing that mom friends tell me is, I feel so isolated, or sorry, I talked for so long, but I haven't seen any adults in a couple of days, you know, and they needed somebody to just have verbal discourse with, and that's totally the opposite of now. And you're also almost motivated by our society to do it yourself and be independent, and oh well, I did all this with just me, and then we wonder why we live in the age of anxiety.
100%.
It's crazy.
Yeah, she mentioned how we're doing a disservice to our society with how isolated we all are right now. And women especially need safety and validation. And we get that through other women. We can get that through our partners as well, but to balance our hormones and to function properly, we need safety and validation. And so this brings me to the importance of healing. The why are we healing? Why are we slowing down? Well, we're slowing down because post-birth, huge hormonal shifts are we need to balance our hormones. And one of the ways we do that is by having baby skin to skin with us as much as possible and getting that oxytocin rush. Not only are we balancing the baby's hormones, but it's helping us as well. And so if we can have friends, family members, neighbors, church members, community members, anybody coming to help support you during this time, that is ideal. That's the way our human species were meant to live.
Literally, after raising a variety of different animals, if you don't raise the animal within the way its species was meant to be raised, it is very hard on the animal. And I always think about how that relates to the humans. But when you get a cow, you can't have one cow. They're social and they need their own kind. They don't socialize as the same way as they do with, another cow. And I think about that when I think about moms and humans, and I always think we are a herd species. We like the safety of the herd and the comfort, but there's inconveniences to a herd too. And I think in a way we tried to get rid of all those inconveniences with our modern life. And you can self-check out, you can have food delivered, you can never see a person and avoid interaction, and it's convenient and you never have to go out of your way for somebody. But then we end up isolated, and that's really sad. So I agree with you. I think that is important. And having somebody come, people want to come and hold the baby, but they need to come and just scrub the toilet. And you hold the baby. Because nobody, before we started recording, I told you that when I'm nursing the baby, and I like past babies that I've had so far, when when I'm nursing and I get that oxytocin letdown, it's such a rush. And I remember thinking quite distinctly, if this is what drugs are like, I get it. I get why people take them. I get why people get addicted to them. I get why they look for them, because to be able to feel this way, it's euphoric and you can't even describe it. But that isn't something that your neighbor can do for you. Like, they need to be the ones, doing the laundry or something really boring and mundane, so that you and the baby can be having that hormonal exchange, that temperature and that, heart rate exchange of being so close to each other, skin to skin. Nothing can replace that.
I completely agree. I love birth. And I joke with my husband all the time, like I would do it over and over again, but mostly because of that post-birth feeling. It's like you said, it's like a high. It is the most intense high I have ever experienced in my life. It's addicting. Like, I want to do it again. Yes, I would be pregnant again. Yes, I would go through labor again.
Yeah, this just came so in a vial.
Yes, just so I can experience that high of like, I just birthed my baby. I'm nursing, I'm being cared for. The people around me are loving me. They're bringing me food. They're bringing me water. The
feeling of being cared for. Yeah, the feeling of being cared for. I've explored if I wanted to just have our next baby just on my own, here, not bring in any help or anything. And I feel no qualms about if that were to be what happens. We live fairly far out. There's a pretty good chance that even the staff that I've hired might not make it in time. But so I have no fear about that. But I remember telling a friend, the thing that I love is just how you feel like a princess. And you just feel like if you say, I want a hot towel, you got a hot towel, like just feeling like you just feel like, wow, I'm so cared for. And I think that is a very, very valuable aspect of birth that isn't always structured as part of the important, experiences of birth.
In today's modern day society.
Yeah. Like today. Yeah.
And then we wonder why women end up with postpartum depression. Yeah.
Or why they don't want to have more babies, because they went through what you just described as an addicting high, for a woman who might be listening right now, and she might be thinking, that was one of the worst days of my life. And she's thinking, why would I want to go through that again? And I feel very, very deep compassion for that. Yeah. Because that is a hard thing. That is a hard thing. Yeah. And it is not widely acknowledged.
You're so right. Yeah. Birth trauma is definitely a reality in today's world. Yeah. That could be a conversation for another day, because there's many theories on that as
Maybe
well.
It will be. Yeah. Maybe it will be.
Yeah.
But why? Now we know why healing.
Now we know why healing is so important, and now we know why, even if as a woman we feel like we're independent and we can do it all, and we need to go back to work. And for many women, that is a reality, and you do need to go back to work. And if that's something that has to happen, that is 100% okay. So how can we still nourish our bodies, and how can we still take care of ourselves, so that if that's something that has to happen, we're still aware of, I think actually the awareness, just being aware that, you're, even if you are going back to work, okay, my body is still healing. I need to be a little more gentle. Maybe instead of coming home and making dinner, having a meal train set up, or, if you're lucky enough to be able to pre-cook meals and then freeze them ahead of time, or having family members bring food and that kind of thing. Lowering the lowering I don't want to say like lowering the bar a little bit, but yes, like lowering your bar of expectations, your energy output, things like that.
Yeah. This isn't the time to be experimenting with the new kidney souffle. This is when we have the same soup from yesterday.
Yes.
Like it
Over
can
and over
be
again.
equally nourishing, but not as exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I agree.
So yeah, I guess I want to just remind ourselves, myself included, that even when it feels like easy pregnancy, easy birth, all those things you said, you've still given up a lot of your foundation to the baby, which is as it should be and as it will be for the rest of your life. And it's not just if you had a hard time that you need to heal. It's all of us who go through this labor. Yeah. You believe in taking then like a dedicated time of, if you can, I know this,
Totally.
even ancestrally, we don't always see that this was possible, but often cultures made it very, very ritualistic, and it was expected that you would take a window of time just literally in bed or down.
Yeah.
And I know women from different cultures who say, oh yeah, I wasn't even allowed out of my room for like a month.
Yeah.
My mother and sisters were there doing everything. And so can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the 40 days essentially, I think, is what a lot of people call it. And there was a book a while ago called The First 40 Days, The Essential Art of Nourishing the New Mother. And I think this is when it finally became a little more mainstream and popular for, the modern day mom. But yes, it falls right in with this idea of the body needs to heal. And along with it as well, there are certain foods that we want to eat because these are the foods that are going to help replenish the nutrients that were lost, help heal. And all of these foods are warming foods. Mm-hmm. And so, focusing on things like broths and stews and warm teas. And the idea behind this is right after you've given birth and as you're healing, we want to ease everything for the body. We want to make it easier for essentially the body to heal. So this means we're going to eat foods that are much more easily digested. And the foods that are the easiest to digest are animal proteins and broths and animal fats. Okay. So we really want to focus on
all the good stuff.
I know
all the tasty things.
Yeah. So all the broths, all the meat stocks, all the soups, the stews, the sauces, like that kind of thing. And animal meats, because those are very easy for our body to break down and digest. And these animal meats, specifically, if you can handle it, organ meats. These organ meats and animal meats are going to help replenish all of the minerals. They're high in iron and zinc and choline and all of the fat-soluble vitamins. And these are going to be what helps your body heal. Because we know that protein is what helps rebuild tissue, and broth is what helps the digestive system. It's very soothing and healing for the digestive system. It helps, close. For those of you who are familiar with GAPS, which I'm sure many of your listeners are, it helps close and seal that gut lining. And then, we need the animal fats as well, because again, those have the calories that we need to be able to produce our milk. They have this, many of them have the same micronutrient profiles. So your fat soluble vitamins, minerals, things like that. These are sacred foods. These are the sacred foods that we want to eat. And then a lot of cultures will also, they'll focus on certain herbs. And some of these herbs are things like ginger and garlic and cinnamon and turmeric. And these are warming herbs. And so there's some traditional dishes that will have these herbs infused in them. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking of another really popular postpartum dish, which is like a pig's trotter soup. Mm-hmm. And this is, again, because pig's feet are so gelatinous, and it's an incredibly nourishing soup. It's, the body needs gelatin and collagen and all of these nutrients to be able to heal from what it went through. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and the other reason why we also want the organ meats is because we've lost a lot of blood in birth. So we need blood boosting and blood building foods. And so that's organ meats, kidney, heart, liver, bone marrow. What else? I think. Yeah, all of these really good organ meats. And within those 40 days, the recommendation is to avoid cold, hard, crunchy, raw foods. So no salads, no raw vegetables, no foods that are difficult to digest, which would be things like grains or even legumes, and anything that makes it harder for your body to break down and absorb and utilize the nutrients. The recommendation is to just really focus on the broths, the meats, the animal fats, the warming spices. Things like that. Out of curiosity, did you ever do that with any of your previous births?
So I don't know that with the first two, I wasn't as familiar with the whole warming concept, but it's just kind of the food that we had was warming. I did have oatmeal many, many times with my first. So that would be a grain. Then with my third, and I would say that was where I had the most exposure and the most, I got nourishing traditions while I was pregnant with the first. And so by this time I'd had plenty of time with the book. And so that was where I had more implementation of those things. And it also felt like my best postpartum. And it felt like I had more of that euphoria. Whereas with I also feel like with the first two, especially with the first, I was the most isolated because we had moved when I was 38 weeks or something like that, across from Washington to Virginia. So pretty far. And I think I'd had 2 or 3 appointments with the midwife before the baby was even born. So I was barely there. Our furniture had showed up barely in time, to have everything set up like a bed. Because I birthed at home with all 3 of ours, and I wanted to have, bed to go to, not an air mattress afterwards. Mm-hmm. But I definitely feel like the third, we were the most settled. We were back here in Washington. We had both our parents within arm's reach, and both my husband's and my parents are really good about, participating and supporting and things like that. So really good experience for me there. And I remember the day after the baby was born that I was laying in bed with her, and my husband's mom came in the morning and made everybody waffles. I didn't even see her. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to get out. I wanted to stay. And she didn't be like, oh, let me in here and see and hold the baby and everything. And I didn't let anybody hold the baby for the first couple of days, other than my husband and then the kiddos that were with us. But she just came and made breakfast for everybody and left. And I've always thought that was very self-sacrificial, because as a grandma, wouldn't you want to be show me the money, get the baby out here. But she just came and cooked for everyone and did the dishes, and then she went home. And I just thought, man, that's so beautiful. So having people like that in your life is really a big, huge blessing. And things like that, you'll never forget that. I'll never forget that for my whole life, that she did that.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And for the record, after my third, and I think it might have been with my second too, my postpartum meal that I requested was, I wanted like a full American style breakfast. So I wanted pancakes, bacon, awesome. Eggs, sausage. So I definitely did not follow that to a T. Yeah. I could have had a warming broth or super stew, but I had pancakes, bacon, eggs, and sausage. Yeah.
Take me to IHOP.
Yeah, seriously.
This episode's sponsored by IHOP.
Yes. Tabasco and IHOP.
Don't write to me.
I know.
Just kidding.
Hey, you washing the dishes. Been there. You've heard Allison and I talk over and over about her love of rye sourdough bread. Well, I might actually call it an obsession, but that's neither here nor there. Now you can make Allison's rye sourdough in your own kitchen with her as your teacher. And she's a really good teacher. Rye is economical, it's delicious, and full of nutrients and low in gluten. There's a reason why it has been a darling of bread bakers for centuries. Make it into sourdough, as Allison will show you in her course, Rye Sourdough Bread, Mastering the Basics. And you've got an amazing, tasty, and nutritious staple in your kitchen. It's traditional and it's nutritional. In this course, you'll learn everything there is to know about how she creates and maintains her rye sourdough starter, all about whole grain sourdough rye, including the key differences between baking with rye and wheat, how to make 2 loaves, an everyday rye sandwich bread, and a delicious Russian-style dark rye loaf, and what to do with your sourdough discard, including video walkthroughs for sourdough pancakes and a tasty, sweet, spiced cake. Head to www.ancestralkitchen.com/rye.
And actually, I am so glad that you're reflecting back on previous births. And this is not something I've done even on my own show, but my first birth was, while it was natural and in a birthing center, all of it was kind of dramatic and fast. And unfortunately, I know I ended up getting a fever and had to be transferred to a hospital. And so pretty much right after I delivered my first, I was, he was fine. The baby was totally fine, but I was transferred to a hospital. I lived in New York City at the time. And I gave birth in Brooklyn.
My gosh.
Yes, at a birthing center in Brooklyn.
Wow.
And so the hospital that I was transferred to was an Orthodox Jewish hospital. And it was quite an experience. I would definitely associate birth trauma with it, your post-birth trauma, because I did not have my own room, obviously. I was sharing a room with another woman who was on baby number 11. And
goodness.
Yes. She was very upset that I wanted the baby in the room with me. Why didn't I send it to the nursery? The food was horrendous. The food was so disgusting. And I was not even close to nourishing traditions, but I was still this is the worst food that you could feed someone that just had a baby. And thankfully, what? Oh, like what? Did you say what? You want to know? You want to know. Okay. Are you ready for this?
No.
Packaged Jell-O.
Oh.
Brightly red.
Yeah.
The most unappetizing cold oatmeal that you can possibly imagine. Really gross meats that I don't even know how they were cooked, but they didn't look like real meats. I don't even think I was ever fed eggs. I didn't eat any of it. I actually told my husband, "You're gonna have to bring me food from outside because this is not acceptable." And so I had my family members bringing food in for me. But I remember seeing it, thinking like, "This is prison food. I cannot believe that this is what's given to moms after they've given birth." I mean, it's just such a juxtaposition of
a travesty.
Yes, of what we need, what needs to happen.
Yeah. And then you're going to wonder, and then it's just boggling my mind because one thing connects to the other. And after you traumatize somebody, which can happen during labor, and, we both probably know people who, and you shared your own just now, but people who have told us stories of that happening to them. And then you're given the foods that, like, you and I probably wouldn't even feed to our dogs and cats because it's so low on the nutrition scale. And then you tell the mom, well, if you can't breastfeed, that's fine. We'll just give you formula. It's like you literally made it as impossible as possible as it could be for her body to succeed. Mm-hmm. And anyone who's listened to Allison's story knows that even sometimes under the best of circumstances, that doesn't, breastfeeding doesn't always pan out. But to make it that much harder on your body, and then, that's really sad.
Yeah. No, definitely. I wanted, can we actually go back a little bit to the warming foods and stuff? Because
yes, I would love to go back to that.
As we're discussing all of this, I'm remembering back to that first birth and how one of the reasons why some of these cultures encourage these warming foods is because after you give birth, oftentimes a woman gets very, very cold.
Yes.
And in fact, there's there's a medical term called the post-labor shakes.
Yep.
And this is because
there's an adrenaline dump and all this stuff.
Totally. Yeah. Hormonal changes, adrenaline dump. Your mini heater that you had inside of you is just gone.
And your blood volume, like the volume of liquid in your body has left. And the thing that women are given to replenish it is ice water.
Yes. Yeah. I know.
But from 98-degree liquid flowing through our veins to ice water.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh.
Yeah. So that made me think back to, this is another wise piece of ancestral information of why we need these warming foods. And that's what, the spices that I mentioned, the turmeric and the cinnamon and the garlic, and the ginger, they help with circulation and, they help strengthen the digestive system and warm the body. So teas made with those herbs and putting those herbs in your soups and in your broths and maybe your pancakes, maybe some cinnamon ginger pancakes.
Oh, that sounds good. Like a gingerbread pancake.
I know, right?
Now you make me wonder and I have said before, I can tell you exactly what I ate after both of the first two kids were born because I wanted specific things and I knew exactly where they were in the kitchen, and I told the midwives because they say, what do you want to eat? And I was like, this is right here on this shelf and this is right here. I don't want it like this. I knew exactly what I wanted, and I don't remember what I had after the third.
Oh no.
I'm trying to remember. I want to say we maybe had a lasagna in the fridge or something already. I can't even remember. But I remember what I wanted was a giant cheeseburger. I was like,
oh, that's amazing.
I could get a huge cheeseburger. My husband makes the best burgers, but I wasn't going to let him walk out of the room. But I just wanted a gigantic cheeseburger. But I do know that the second day, a friend brought us a huge gluten-free chicken pot pie. brothy and meaty and like veggies, like all the things you want. She's one of our people, you know, she made it all the things. And I wasn't able to have any grains during my pregnant season. So, she hadn't, or any gluten at all. It would just make me vomit all over the place, for lack of a better way to say it. But, we didn't know if that would continue. So she brought it grain-free. And then she also made brownies. And then she brought all the kids coloring books, like wrapped like gifts. So they were getting something fun. And she came and was gone within 10 minutes. And it was like the perfect drop off, you know? And again, she has a place in my heart forever because of that. Like I will never forget that. And so meat pie is a really good thing to bring someone. So we ate that for like 3 days.
Yeah.
So good.
Since you're shouting out a very, special human, I feel like, man, we got to give credit to these people that think of these things. I had a similar person after my third birth. A very, very sweet human who, again, like you said, she brought me, it was such a delicious meal. It was so good. I think and there was nothing complicated to it. It was ground beef, cabbage, broth, and some like tomato sauce. It was her version of just like a gluten-free, she called it a lasagna, but it wasn't, like technically a lasagna, but it was so delicious. Yeah. I remember it to this day, probably because there was love, tons of love infused into it. But she also, my kids were going to a Montessori program at that time. She brought lunch for them so that we wouldn't have had to pack lunch for them.
That's so amazing.
Yeah. And then she brought an additional meal that we could freeze. And just the amount of thought that goes into incredible. That and the love that you feel, it's unmatched. I mean, okay, for your listeners, if you have the capacity to be that person in somebody's life, do it. Both here, Andrea and I recalling these people that cared so much for us and brought us meals years ago, and we still remember you. Okay.
And we can tell you what was in it and what it tasted like and how, and I just remember, eating that pot pie and sitting on the couch and telling Yuri, like, all I want is a piece of that pot pie. I want a piece of that pot pie right now. Like, it was just so unbelievably good. Yeah. And when you have just had a baby, this is where I think birth trauma can happen, but also what you and I just described, which is this permanent, like, whatever you do for the rest of your life, I will remember this, you're flayed wide open. You are so utterly vulnerable after birth. And like you going to that hospital, if you went there, say now, you would probably have completely different reactions to everything that happened. You'd be like, whatever, honey, go get me some good food. But you were this completely, like your heart is just cracked wide open so that you can take in your baby. That's how I feel. And so then anybody who steps into that like oxytocin bathtub, you can either harshly hurt somebody, a wound that may feel open for years and years to come, or you can bring them cabbage and beef or chicken pot pie and they will like pray for you every night for the rest of their life, because it's like you walked into that open heart somehow. And so, you can really cement yourself a place in someone's heart that way.
Yeah, that postpartum time is such a vulnerable time in a woman's life to be receptive and open to the help of others. I almost think of it as like a cocoon time. Like it's a good time to just sort of like, wrap yourself up in warm blankets and just sort of cocoon yourself with your baby as much as possible. And actually, another friend recommended something that I think ever since, if I ever have another I would most definitely suggest this to people. But before your baby's born, make a list of the things that you want done around your house, like after the baby comes, and put it up on the fridge or put it up on the front door or put it somewhere visible so that anybody that walks through the door is like, okay, laundry needs to be folded, I don't know, dishes need to be put away kind of thing. Like this is something so that they're not asking you, because it is also very hard to have to delegate tasks. So if you're already writing that, it takes energy to tell people like, okay, no, it needs to go over there, or this is the way you need to do it. Whatever. You let go. You say, someone else is going to be doing this, and there's a list up there, and you can see what it says. And I really liked that piece of advice.
That's a great idea. And good for you, too, because when people say, well, if there's anything I can do, our sort of cultural response is, oh, yeah, that's fine. And then we don't tell them. But if you had a list dangling in front of you, you'd be like, yes, actually, yes, I need the trash cans taken down to the road.
Yeah, I don't even have to ask. Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
I've heard this saying that says, the first and the last time that a mother is asked how she's doing is on the day the baby is born. So that's when, people will ask her, like, how are you doing? And then after that, anybody that comes through that door doesn't ask how she's doing. It's always, how's the baby? How's the baby? How'd the baby sleep? How's the baby doing? Yeah. And that was like, a knife through the heart when I heard that.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. We have forgotten that the mother has also gone through a massive transformative process, and we need to ask how she's doing. And this reminds me again of one of the things that this anthropologist Mary Reddick said, which is women need other women. And if we talk to someone just once a week or see them once a week, so like all we need, that is enough to help balance our hormones and help us feel like loved and connected. So just having a friend come over once a week and she sits and she chats, or maybe she does laundry for you and then comes and chats, but having someone come in and check in on you and asking you how you're doing, and not just, like you said, offering to hold the baby. There's nothing wrong with that, but
no,
really checking in on you.
But don't be offended if a mom says no and doesn't want you to hold the baby. I'm very resistant to people outside of the immediate family holding. I feel like I'm happy to let grandparents into the circle sooner, but generally speaking, I'm resistant to people holding the baby for a while postpartum because it does feel like it's still in my womb somehow. And, but there has certainly been times when I'm like, please hold the baby. I would love to go to the bathroom with two hands and take a shower with two hands, but that's, sometimes what you need is to be able to just, everybody says, just rest when the baby rests. And okay, we've heard that. And, don't worry about the mess. But I've thought before, what if, like when the house is falling down around my ears, I can't rest. I am not able to. Yeah. And it isn't good rest for me. And it just feels, wrong somehow. And so I've thought like, well, how am I supposed to rest in the baby rest if I'm like basically in panic mode because I feel like the house is coming down around my ears and I don't know what we're going to eat. We need to eat, So this is where trying to restore some culture, village culture, I guess, is helpful. And also, as you said, prepping ahead, which a lot of the things you said can be it's very straightforward to prep broth.
Very
freeze it or
easy.
can it,
Yeah.
And eggs. I think I lived on eggs when my first was born. I think I had read Sally Fallon had said somewhere that in Japan, women would eat 8 eggs a day or something like that after they had a baby. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's a goal. I don't think I ever quite hit that, but he was born during the historical record-breaking heat wave in our little house that had no air conditioning.
Oh no.
And I remember after all night, labor with the first for me was long. You said yours was not the same situation, but after all night labor, looking up and seeing that we had like a little wall AC that was probably from the early 17th century and didn't really do anything. But it was running. And I remember saying, oh, we got it down to 88 degrees in here. That's insane. Like in the middle of the night.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
It was so hot. So when the midwives came the next day and I was sitting on the couch, those it's that nasty material of couches, where you run it one way and it makes a line and you can run it back the other way.
Like velvet or something, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. No, it's some plastic. Anyways, I was sitting on that and it was just black with sweat all around me and nursing the baby, and he's just covered in sweat. And they were like, "Are you fine?" But in a way, the heat was probably really good for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't creating broth, I'll tell you that. But
I know, right?
But I was warm.
It's so funny.
We didn't turn the AC on because somebody had said, "Oh, don't run the AC when you have a newborn because they'll get chilled."
Totally.
And we're like, "Oh, okay, sounds good." And then the midwives came and they're like, "You can turn your little pathetic AC on because your house is literally 115 degrees in here, and it's not going to chill the baby if you bring it down to 90. I think you'll be fine." We're like, okay, cool. But we were like, "Don't turn the air on."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, summer babies.
Memories, right? Yeah.
Do you? Oh no, you say what you're gonna say.
No, I was just gonna say I've only had 2 summer babies.
Yeah, me too. Only had 2. When you were describing warming foods and you said don't have, veggie salads or whatever, you took me back to when I had my first, and I was still very much engaged in lose weight culture, smoothies, salads. I was toying with raw and stuff like that. I, never quite fell down into that rabbit hole fully because I would make a recipe from a raw vegan cookbook and then I'd be like, this would be really good with a patty of meat on top of it. So I still put meat on it. But all that to say, all the books that I looked at that time and the Pinterest things or whatever internet thing was hot back then where you would see stuff were all this postpartum, eat smoothies and lose weight kind of right as fast as you can, which feels like the opposite of what you're describing. What are your thoughts on all of that?
I mean,
do we have time?
Yeah, I don't think postpartum is the time to be worrying about losing weight.
Yeah.
It's the time to be focused on nourishing your body well so that you can feed the baby, so that your milk production is up, so that you have the energy to be able to manage your newborn. Plus, if you have other children, and sometimes we forget that it does take the body a while to recover from a pregnancy and a birth. So I want to say it takes anywhere between 2 and 3 years to
I've heard
fully
that.
recover from that.
Some people even say 5 years or 7 or crazy numbers, but nothing to do with a couple weeks. Nothing there.
No, definitely not. Yeah, within the first, I would venture to say the first year, I wouldn't worry about losing weight. Focus on balancing your hormones as much as possible through the skin to skin with your baby, through your community helping you and supporting you. through the foods that you're eating, the animal proteins, the broths, the animal fats, and unfortunately, our society today puts so much pressure on women to quote unquote bounce back. And
that term.
Yeah.
What does it even mean? You can never bounce back. You're only going to move forward after a bit. You're never going back to anything.
Thank you for saying that, because once we have children, our bodies are completely different. We will not be the whatever we looked like or whatever weight we were in when we were 18, 19, 20, 21. It's not the same. It's not going to happen. And I also don't think it's supposed to.
No. And even beyond that, there's changes that happen inside of you that like even in your brain. I mean, you are a changed person after having, and this includes, again, I don't want to not include, but this includes the mothers whose pregnancy or baby was lost. She still has permanent changes and markers of that baby in her body forever.
Yeah.
And it's cold to say bounce back. It's cold.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's wise advice for women at all.
Yeah. So. Why is it such a overwhelming message in our society? Why is that, do you think?
I think because we live in a society that doesn't serve women, and because we are so focused on do, and getting things done and independence, we have not stopped to think about those consequences on what happens to females in situations like that.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like this is a much deeper conversation.
Yeah. I want to go there one day with you.
Yeah. As much as we can say that women have been liberated and we have so much freedom now, and we are, whatever people want to say about the movements, okay? What is not being taken into consideration is our biological needs. And when it comes down to it, our biology on a molecular level, we are a gregarious species. We're a pack species. We need other humans, and women specifically need other women around them. And we need to be cared for. And we are not meant to just give birth and then get up and go into a board meeting. And even if that's what we do, and if that's someone out there, that's power to you. And I think we also need to just recognize that that's not what your biology was designed for.
Right.
So we need to find a balance somehow, I guess.
You just reminded me of something that links in with what you just said, which is, I haven't posted on Instagram much in months, but if somebody goes to my Instagram, then there's like a highlight called That's Hot.
Okay.
And then I think there's another one called She's Hot. And
what is this?
What happened was one of my friends who was staying out here posted a picture of her partner who was carrying, like, we live in a forest, and he was carrying a giant log, like, across the field he was building steps or something. And she was like, oh yeah, I just like watching him do this. And then I was like, oh yeah, like literally nothing I love better than like watching Gary splitting firewood or just doing some like crazy manly, thing. But then I started getting tagged and sent all these wives and were like, I'm just sitting out here watching my husband split firewood and it's so hot, like just like crazy. So then we all started thinking, okay, if the ladies are all like, I want to watch him split firewood, oh my gosh, and splitting firewood raises men's testosterone.
Yes, it does.
Like quite a lot. And so we're like, maybe that's why, like we're all into this. And so then I asked, what is it for women? What is it that we do that like raises our hormones? And so I think it was Colleen. Somebody started looking into it and they found out it's being around other women. Like our activity that raises our healthy hormones and makes us feel really good and powerful is being around other women. I'm like, what? It's crazy, but I totally get it because when I'm around my girls, I'm just like, this is so awesome. It's just such a good, like just sitting here and talking with you this morning. It's just so uplifting. And meeting with Allison is like that, So now you're saying that how important it is for women to see women, and you reminded me of that. Like I forgot about that.
Wow, that's really cool. I love that story.
It's kind of funny. Well, I think you missed Popular. I have another recording to do, so I don't want to keep you on too long. So let me ask you then, as we finish up, if you tell people where they can find you. I'll put everything in the show notes. So if you're listening, you're washing dishes, feeding the baby, don't worry about trying to write it down. I'll write it down for you and put it in the show notes. And if you mentioned the 4th trimester book, I'll put that. I looked up, and the one that I read is a different one by the same title. But I'll put those both. Yeah, I'll put them both in the show notes. Where do you want people to go to find you and learn more from you?
Yeah. So you can find me on my website, nourishthelittles.com. And you can find me on Instagram at nourishthelittles. And you can find me on my podcast, Modern Ancestral Mamas.
Yes, which is a fun podcast, and I've been on it.
You have. Andrea and Allison have been on the podcast.
I was trying to remember, because when we did that like long 4-hour recording or whatever, where we put half on our podcast and half on your podcast, on one of those we talked about foods that people could bring when a mom had a baby.
We did. Yes.
So I was going to tell people, I don't remember which one it was, but they could go see that.
I'll have to go back and look and see if it was on our episode or on your episode.
Probably in the notes. Probably mentioned in the notes. Yeah.
Actually, that was a very good episode. And for us, it was one of our first. But I just felt like the conversation was so rich and there was a lot of information in it. So definitely.
I thought it was really good. The questions that people asked were good, and I liked all the different, like when somebody said, what do I do when my husband doesn't want us to eat this way or doesn't want me to spend money on it or something? How do I get ancestral food? And there's 4 of us, and we all had a different kind of perspective, and everybody threw something on the table as an idea. I thought that was so valuable, being able to hear what you all had to say.
I enjoyed it.
It's good.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, let me get you off here so you can get to your next recording.
I know. I've got to go set up for that one.
This was such great fun, Christine. I love talking to you. Thank you for jumping on with me.
Yeah.
This was so cool. I feel inspired and hungry.
I know, right? You need to go up and get some eggs.
Let me go eat those eggs. All right. Well, you have a good
8 eggs.
I'm going to go eat my 8 eggs.
Anyway.
Well, you have a good morning, Christine.
I'll
talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
If you'd like to support the podcast, you can join as a patron. Choose from various levels starting at $5. You can see what we offer at ancestralkitchenpodcast.com.
While you're there, check out our favourite books, supplements and kitchenware, or give a one-time donation.
Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
And if you know someone who would love our show, tell them about us.
You are helping to bring ancestral food wisdom into modern kitchens, changing the world one plate at a time.